Thanks for joining us. My name is Megan Remington. I'm our community education coordinator here at Coconino Community College. If you've been with me through the first 4 and now 5 webinars of this series, I must say bravo, because holy cow, it has been a lot of content, a lot of amazing people. But we've clearly saved some of the best for last. So we're super happy to have you with us tonight. If you have not joined us before, the reason why we're doing this series is because Coconino Community College is starting a cross-country program, and we're super excited about it. We're using this webinar series as an opportunity to get people aware of these programs and get them excited about them. And in doing that, we're talking to people around the county, around Northern Arizona, the movers and the shakers, the people who have made a massive impact on running in our communities. And and we're really excited about it. So if you have never been on a webinar before, and I find that hard to believe at this point during COVID, but if you haven't, for whatever reason, maybe you haven't been on Zoom before, I don't know, at the bottom of your participant screen, you're able to click on the chat box. When you go over to the chat box, there's a little drop down that says either all panelists or all panelists and attendees. Flip that over to the attendees, because if you want to say something to everybody, it gives everybody a little bit more of that feeling of community conversation. That's what we're really looking for. Ask us questions, make comments, especially since our speaker that is joining us tonight, the amazing Mike Smith, if I've got lumberjacks in the audience, and I'm assuming Joy Gareths, if you are not on this list, I will be absolutely stunned. I know that she might not be on there yet, but she will be, and she is one of the most hardcore lumberjacks I know. There she is. Okay, she made it. So we've got Joy in there. We need our lumberjacks sounding off, and we need our Comets, our CCC Comet sounding off as well. So make sure you use that chat box. Make sure you use the Q&A at the bottom of the screen. Ask questions. Let us know what you want to know. And with that said, I am so happy that we were able to snag Coach Mike Smith to join us tonight, because I know you're a busy guy. You're everywhere. I also didn't realize that I had listed your title wrong, because I was like, oh, he's the cross-country coach over at NAU. And then I read the article about the track and field teams winning the outdoor championships for the Big Sky, which, by the way, congratulations.
Thank you.
And I saw that you are actually the director of the whole program. It's not just cross country. Is it all the running programs in general then?
Yep, correct. It's men's and women's cross country and track and field.
Whew,
yeah, so
that's awesome.
Men's and women's cross country, indoor track, outdoor track.
Okay, cool. So congratulations, first of all, and thank you so much for coming here this evening and spending some time with us, because obviously, hopefully the program at CCC is going to be beneficial to you as a head coach, and we're really excited to get your thoughts on the program and all that good stuff. But to start, we have to ask the initial question, the question that we have to ask everybody who's in this elevated position within the running community is, tell us about, and it can be abridged, because I know when I asked Ben this question yesterday, he was like, oh boy, I'm going to have to shorten it a little bit, but tell us your journey, kind of what brought you to where you are today.
Sure, yeah. It's well, first of all, thanks for having me, Megan. I'm really happy to be here and so excited for CCC. This is great news for the running community in Flagstaff, and I know for certain so many young people are going to be affected in wonderful ways because CCC is beginning this program. So very excited for the Flagstaff running community and the future of the Comets.
Yeah.
Let's see. I was a runner myself, and I actually came to Flagstaff in 2006 with no intention of ever becoming a college coach, and was fortunate enough to work with Dr. Jack Daniels, who was a physiologist, and he was working out of NAU at an operation that's no longer here, but it was called the Center for High Altitude Training, and got a part-time gig working with Dr. Daniels, and he sparked my interest in coaching. And I was fortunate enough to work with him for 5 or 6 years here, and I had the chance to become a college coach back where I went to school in Washington, D.C., Georgetown University. So I left Flagstaff for 4 years, but I would always come back in the summer. And I knew that if I ever had the chance to come coach at NAU, that would be a tremendous opportunity. Position to open up in 2016, and I arrived September of 2016. I've been leading the program since then. So a little bit about how I got into college coaching and found my way back to Flagstaff, but it's been fantastic.
That's so great. Well, and I was curious about that because I know, your alma mater, being able to coach there. Was there a particular reason that brought you back to Flagstaff? Because I know when you go to your alma mater, there's a certain special connection to it. What was it that really kept you tied down to Flagstaff?
Yeah, no, that speaks to me about how special our community is. I was fortunate enough to, my last year coaching at Georgetown, I became the director, so the equivalent position of the role I have here at NAU, and for sure, special to get to work at the place where I ran as an athlete, and coaching at Georgetown, it was a very competitive program, so lots of fun on that end. But maybe this would be the only place I would leave that position for, and it was such an opportunity to have a very healthy balance of doing the thing I wanted to do, but also in the place I wanted to do it. Maybe people on this webinar can relate if you live here in Flagstaff, but this is a place like no other place, and any time spent here I think is special time, even if you're just visiting or passing through. But I grew up on the East Coast. I had never been to the Southwest before living here. When I returned to the East Coast, having lived here for 6 years, the Southwest was with me all the time. It was like weird dreams of sandstone and canyons, and it was totally stuck with me, and I missed it so much. So it was just if this position opened, I would absolutely have to explore it.
That's awesome. Well, and it actually brings up a question. So Nat White pointed out, and I hadn't realized this, that there is a massive influx of East Coasters who come out here, because Nat was saying that he's from the East Coast. Obviously you are. I know that Aaron Strout is from Pennsylvania. And then Craig, our incoming coach, is from, oh boy, I have it written down somewhere, but he's also from the East Coast. Is there like a special draw that brings all y'all over here, or is it just serendipitous?
Yeah, the special draw is no traffic. That's how we all end up here. No. Yeah, I think it's a very different way of living, and I think the East Coast is tough for lots of people. So, but you have to leave to know what maybe you're living. And I think the really fortunate thing for me is I got to experience Flagstaff for 6 years, then go live back on the East Coast for 4 years. Mm-hmm. So I had something to compare to, versus maybe just imagining it or something like that. I felt like, like my resting heart rate is a lot higher in Washington, D.C. than it is in Buffalo Park.
That is so true. And I gotta say, the difference in the expectation for travel and transport is different, because I'll never forget, I'd gone to Boston for the first time, literally had never been to the East Coast in my entire life. And a friend of mine was over at MIT, and he was like, I'll come over and we'll hang out and I'll show you around. And he walked up to my hotel, and I was like, well, where's your car? Because I'm from Arizona, and you drive everywhere. That's just what you do. And he looked at me like I was from outer space. And it was like, no, we're not driving anywhere. What on earth are you thinking?
Right. Oh yeah. That's it. For sure.
So, and thank you, Reggie. It was Connecticut is where Craig is from. And then going back up the chat real quick, Robin Long tossed out a Go Hoyas for you. And then Robin. And then we actually have our first question for you already. So the question that popped up was, how much of your success at NAU has been due to the work done by your predecessors, and how much of it has been due to your leadership, in your opinion?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's all my predecessors, actually. It's NAU's been a successful distance program way before I was here, and going back an awful long time. Coach Eric Hines was the director before me. Ron Mann was here 25 years. And actually, Leo Haberlack is really the beginning of it all in the 1960s. And in my role, it's really fun because I'll be at a track meet in Phoenix or Tucson, and this just happened a few weeks ago. Two guys walk up to me, and they're brothers from the NAU cross country team in the 70s and telling old war stories. But a lot of their stories involve the runs that we still do today and places where we still work out. But there's a great connection and a great history, and the same with distance running in Flagstaff. And I always try to point out, the great history before us. For a university like NAU to compete at the highest level of Division I, it takes a lot. And so there's a long run up of in the 80s and 90s of building this thing, and even building our budget, our ability to hire assistant coaches, our ability to recruit. All that had to be, built up to finally kind of, get close maybe in the early 2000s to the level we're at now, and finally to kind of peek over the edge. So I happened to arrive here at a time where a whole lot of that legwork was done, way before me. So I consider myself just a steward of this time, and hope I can do a good job and keep it going as the people before me did.
That's an amazing mindset to have. And it ties in perfectly with, I see we've got a question here. This one was from, oh, I pushed it down too far. Carletta asked, what is your recruiting strategy, especially with the creation of this amazing dynasty? And I would also add, do you experience challenges going up against, knowing that you are literally competing against, all the Division I made the mistake of assuming when we got the first national championship, like, oh, it's like the Big Sky. And then someone was like, no, it's everyone. This is right. the Stanfords, the UCLAs, like all of that. Right. Do you experience challenges with recruiting because of that? Or do you sell Flagstaff and that's about the end of it?
Yeah, and I think that really ties into the question before about my predecessors. It's they would tell you over and over again about getting really, really close. Certain recruits, they can change your whole program, and it's sometimes scary doing this for a living, thinking that your whole future relies on 18-year-olds. But no, really, the right recruits can make a huge difference, and you can. It's a big deal just to have a top recruit visit your university to consider it, right? It's just to come take a trip to NAU for a weekend with their parents and consider it. And again, you're going up against, Stanford and Oregon and UCLA, and sure, you can imagine all the places. And certainly Flagstaff helps. Flagstaff's an amazing place to go to college, to be, 18, 19, 20 years old. It's a tremendous place to train for a distance runner. We know that, but we're going up against places that have so much to offer. We had a young man choose NAU over a full scholarship to Stanford recently. It's wow. It's an amazing journey that these guys travel to eventually be in a place to choose a college, and have to consider all the things they're looking at. So the recruiting is a huge part of my job. It takes up a huge part of my brain all the time, and I think the strategy to answer the question from Carletta is we try to recruit people that fit into our program and our mold here, and that's very much a team-focused way of running our program. And so when you have really talented athletes, typically the athletes that we bring in are the best athletes at their high school, the best athletes in their state, and some of them, sometimes they're the best athletes in the whole country. So to sell them on an idea that you're going to come here and just be another guy, part of our team, and it's not going to be all about you, is not for everybody. And we lose some people on that. And we think when we lose them on that idea, that it's probably for a good thing, right? It ultimately wouldn't be a good fit. When you have a bad fit, it's very damaging for your culture, and it can affect many, many aspects of your program. So we really try to do a good job of vetting the athletes we bring in. We'll recruit across the whole country to maybe, we might start with 200 sophomores to get to 100 juniors, to get to 50 seniors, to get to 10 that we'll even bring on campus, to finally get to 3 that will join our team. It's a crazy process, but we really try to sell people on what we do here and make sure they're good fits for for our program, and make sure our athletes have a say in that too. If our men or women tell me this person doesn't fit in, I listen to them.
Right. Well, and it's interesting because this came up when I was talking with Ben Rosario yesterday. He was saying that that it's so important, that culture, because the team is what really ends up being the difference maker. And then that also came up with we were talking with coaches, current and former coaches at Page High School last week, and the same thing came up again, where they said, the leaders of the team are the ones who really set the pace. They're the ones who come back and kind of talk to people who might not be in the right mindset or things like that. And I suppose that kind of answered my own question already. I was going to say, like, how does that team dynamic really play into these championships, where you kind of have to straddle that line between the championship mindset and not resting on your laurels and walking in thinking you're about to sweep the whole thing?
Yep, that's it. That's the question. That's what I do all day long. That's it. Yeah. And it's, the team aspect of all athletics is really, really special. And what I think for young people is it's this opportunity to think about, how their performance, or what they bring in on a day, how it doesn't just affect themselves, but affects other people. So we talk a lot about, kind of checking ourselves where we enter the locker room, despite whatever's going on that day, knowing that I either am helping our energy, or I'm maybe taking back from our energy, whatever we're bringing in. How, the ability to stick in when something's challenging, whether it's physically challenging or emotionally challenging, how that might affect other people. So it's an opportunity to get outside yourself, and be to not only affect other people, but be affected by other people. And then you throw in, physical challenges into that. And it's just a great laboratory for seeing what's inside there. And so the team is everything. I think doing this, individually we'd miss all the fun stuff, but the team is really the magic part of it.
It is true. I will admit that I would never do a team run Flagstaff workout by myself in a million years, but being in that group of people on the track, huffing and puffing collectively, it suddenly makes it like, no, you can't stop. No one else has stopped. You've got to push through it and deal with it, even though you're getting past, even though it is incredible, that mentality that kind of starts to pervade the group. So I totally agree with that.
Yeah, and I try to point out to them that in their 4 years, I try to use, I use the term selectively, but I try to point out that they are going to bear witness to their teammates on their own individual journey. So you're going to see people on their best day ever, on their worst day ever, curled up in a ball on the ground, in tears. You're going to see them, in their moment of elation. You're going to see their hearts break. We get to the privileges being witness to it all, right? And being, standing there for it. And I think that's more, it shouldn't be as rare as it is for young people, but it's more and more rare to be inside it that deeply with other people that are on the same journey they are.
Right. I was wondering about that, because one of the questions I asked Ben yesterday with Northern Arizona Elite, because a lot of his athletes are coming in straight out of college and they're looking for their next opportunity. And the question I had asked him was, how often do you have someone who just doesn't have that proper mindset going into this, being here? And he pointed out that usually the people with his elite team, they were national champions. So they kind of discovered that in their college journey. But what kind of work do you do with your athletes to kind of help them discover that?
Yeah, that's a big part of the training that we do. We think of cross country or track coaches just writing workouts for physical training, but I find probably the longer I'm a college coach, I think don't tell the athletes this, but I think the workouts end up mattering less and less. And it's really just how they're seeing themselves and what they think about themselves. That ends up being like 90% of it. So I invested probably more in trying to understand that dynamic, that relationship an athlete has with themselves, as the big gateway to, unlocking this next level of performance, because in our sport, a 10% increase in what they do is, huge margins in what we do. A second is a long time in what we do. A minute is a lifetime in what we do. So trying to figure out how to unlock that piece, really, so little of it is about the actual running, but really what they're thinking. And so, yeah, a lot of times I feel like I'm like, I'm a track coach, but I'm also doing a lot of therapy in here. We're doing a lot of psychoanalysis. Yeah, there's a lot going on in what we do. But what's amazing, right? Physical training, that could take a long time to see differences, but changing how you see something, changing how you see yourself, that can, change everything so fast. And I've seen, that's the coolest stuff I see. And the real secret is, when they're going through it, they think it's about running. And the real trick is like, oh, they're going to be using this in all these other places in their life. So it's really special to see it. But we often have a little period of crisis. It's very common to have a little bit of this things to get worse before they get better your freshman year, because they're coming to us in this place of usually when they're on top of what they're doing. So they're, in this high moment of their senior year of high school where they're beating everybody around, and but things sometimes are coming easy to them and they're not challenged, and so then you get dropped into Division I running, and you could be running a great race in cross country your freshman year and being like 150th place, and so that is a new experience for them. And so there's lots of things that end up bubbling to the surface that we address.
Boy, that's and that really does go to show how important it is that you have the extra staff available to assist with things like that. Because that was one of the questions I had was, this falls under that category of the kinds of things that a lot of people just don't realize. All we see are, the national championships that crop up at the end of the year, and everyone just kind of thinks like, oh, they go out, they run around in the around Buffalo Park a few times, and they come back and, oh yeah, they won another national championship because we live at 7,000 feet. But it's so much more than that. And so is there anything else to what you do and how you prepare your teams that you think a lot of people don't realize, or that the typical NAU fan might miss because they're just watching the headlines? They don't necessarily know the details though.
Yeah, I think our program in particular is very, it's a huge time commitment, but it's very hands-on. They get lots of time with our staff. That piece about staffing that you mentioned is a huge piece, and the ability to hire staff but retain staff. Our athletes will see their coaches every single day for 4 years. They might see a professor 2 times a week for a semester. They see us more than anybody, and so having the right people in place, being able to keep them is huge. So I'm really fortunate to work with awesome folks here at NAU that are in coaching for the right reasons and really care about our athletes, and we're able to keep them here and keep doing what we're doing. But I think the staff and the support staff around the coaches is just a huge part of it.
That's awesome. So 2016, were you the head coach at that point, or were you still assisting leading into your official start as head coach?
Yeah, so this something happened that will never happen probably ever again in Division I sports. But my predecessor, Eric Hans, was going to coach one last cross country season and depart on December 1st, 2016. And I was hired, my start date was September 1st, 2016. So we had this, couple month overlap where we worked together. And that happens to be the season that we won the first national championship. And that was just an experience that was so cool for me, because when do you ever get to shadow the person that had the job before you for months, ask all the questions and things like that? And I think we did a good job handling that. And so my first few months here were just a great opportunity to learn and to shadow and to watch. And we had got a national championship at the end of that.
Holy cow. So when you guys walked into the championships in 2016, was it kind of like one of those movie moments where you had that feeling, or was it, you were tempering expectations, like, we'll see how we do? And then when was the moment when you knew, or did you know? Was it like I should have done my research on this, but I'm very curious, because this is the very first ever, right? that has happened
Yeah,
for the
correct.
university.
Correct. And you know, NAU is in college athletics, they have what's called the Power Five, which are the five huge conferences that make millions and millions of dollars off of football and basketball. So this is when you're watching Final Four basketball or Sweet 16 basketball or the Rose Bowl. These are the conferences that, you know, have, you know, huge stadiums full of people. They're giant money-making machines. And so what gets swept along with that is the ability to support all the other sports. So sports like mine that don't exactly make all the money for the university are great beneficiaries of places with huge football and basketball and these big TV deals and things like that. So it's very hard for universities that aren't in those conferences to break through and to beat those other places because their resources are so great. You know, my operating budget is you know, is probably 10% of some of the places that, you know, that we beat. And so and those resources make a huge difference if we're talking about the ability to, you know, hire an extra coach or, you know, get your athletes a massage or chiropractic care or pairs of training shoes, you know, how you travel, all this stuff adds up, right? So in 2016, you know, not only had we never done it, but there's only certain types of teams that have done it. I think if you look back over 40 or 50 years of NCAA cross country, you know, there's a dozen or so schools that, you know, or the type of schools that would win. But there's a reason that places like NAU can't break through, and it's just resources. And so in 2016, you know, you walk into the meet and you've got the physical talent to do it, but there's still this part of your brain that's like, wait a second, you know, and, you know, shoot, I don't know, 100 years of the NCAA, you know, this has never been done. This has never been done. And it shows you how hard it is. And NAU had come close. We'd finished second, you know, 5 years before, something like that. And so we'd gotten close. We knew it's possible, but until you actually do it, it's pretty daunting. And that moment had happened. Yeah, I hope I remember it forever, and I think I will. But it was very, very special. You can imagine, and it felt as much like it was a win for, you know, our athletes as it was for our school and our town, and it felt like it was really about Flagstaff, and it was a way of saying, you know, you guys may have all these hundreds of millions of dollars more than us, but we've got Flagstaff, and that's really it. So Flagstaff to me was the great equalizer, and it showed what was possible, and I think we never looked back from there.
Oh, wow. That kind of gave me goosebumps, and I didn't even get to watch it. So 2017, then you go in and was it, you know, let's make it not a flash in the pan, or was it also kind of like it broke the seal? It allowed everybody to realize we can do this, and that gave them the confidence to go out and get it, or I guess what was the mentality for that one?
Competition burns different fuel, and so if you imagine standing at the gas pump, right, you got your, you know, different things you put in the engine. The easiest, cleanest burning fuel, right, is the ability to run free of expectation. So when you've never won before and no one's expecting it, it can only be good, right? It can only, you know, you're free of having to do anything. So in 2016, it's like NAU is going to beat, you know, all these Power Five schools, you know. It's only bonus if you do it. With everything good that came with the first national championship, what changed is we burned a whole different energy. The whole almost mood shifted, and instead of it became trying to get to the top of the mountain, we had to defend the space, and that's a total different energy. It's a whole other different feeling. And it can be really hard for young people. It's expectation is the curse, you know. They're so afraid to let anyone down, and so afraid that they, you know, someone else could do it, but they're going to be the ones to blow it. Or it also creates tons of eyes and tons of attention on them. And so in 2016, it's like, you know, they got like mismatched uniforms and, like, you know, bunch of guys no one's ever heard of from Arizona. In 2017, now all of a sudden, you know, everyone's watching what they do. And so that ended up becoming kind of this whole other thing. And so not only are you like trying to deal with, you know, staying true to the process of how you got there in the first place, but you don't want to lose the fun of it either, right? Like it's supposed to be this, you know, this enjoyable thing. And I think a really hard thing about some of the last national championships is there's moments in there like when you win, and it's, instead of it being like joy, it's almost like relief. And that's something that that's something I'm trying to work really hard on, of just making sure that we don't get, you know, we don't just put having to meet other people's expectations. We call that OPE, and meeting other people's expectations as the, you know, the centerpiece of what we do, but to make sure that we're having a lot of fun doing it. So 2017 to me was a great learning experience about how we stay true to who we are and not let other people's expectations get in the way. We keep it fun. And then it just got harder to win because people started gunning for us. So 2017 was, I think, a real test of who we are, right? Not just can you win, but can you defend? Right.
And then 2018, correct me if I'm wrong, that was a breeze of a win, wasn't it?
Sometimes on paper it looks like we win by a lot, but the coach's eye, you see like, well, you know, this year and this year, and that was actually really, really close. And 2018, 2018, I think by the most points we may have won, and that was you know, some of the things change because we have personnel change. People graduate and freshmen become sophomores and then juniors and then become your leaders. And so your leadership changes. 2018 was sort of I think a changing of the guard a little bit of some of the people that had kind of got us there. And, you know, it was the last race for, you know, some of our veterans that have been with us on the 16 and 17 teams. And so 18 was one that, to me, it felt a lot closer than maybe it looks on paper, but it was a great victory as well.
Man. And then I know there was the 2019 and BYU, and I think everybody in Flagstaff might not like BYU. If they liked them before, they probably don't care for them much now. I obviously you have to talk about that one because there was the hype that surrounded the idea of, it was four national championships in a row, would have been the first time ever for any school in any sport, right? Or was that what it was? I remember hearing it.
So, I think if we had won in 19, it would have been the most ever consecutively by a team in the NCAA, right? So that was
okay.
So that was part of other people's expectations, OPE, that we were, I was trying to tell our guys that, you know, that would be an outcome and that would not be, you know, not be something that we were talking about. But certainly there was, those expectations were just like building. I mean, you know, ultimately we finished second in that race, and you would have thought like, you know, somebody had died. It was like, you know, it was. So again, in 2016, here's this team from NAU that, you know, if you win, it's just like a bonus. It's like no one could expect this, right?
Right.
Shoot, 3 years later, second place feels like this devastating, you know, somebody, you know, like you're at a funeral, and that tells you the nature of the weight of expectation and what that means. And so it's a hard thing for our guys to go through for sure. And the hardest thing I think maybe for me was seeing how personally they took it. You know, they like apologize and feel like they let everyone down and all this stuff. And it feels heavy when you're 19 years old. And, you know, if you're 19 and you came to NAU for, you know, you've been there for a few years, you'd only been on these national championship teams. Like there were times, most of our guys had never even been at a meet where they hadn't won. They hadn't even experienced that. And so that's a hard thing for them. But, you know, ultimately, I wouldn't change anything because all the good stuff came from them not getting what they want. And so that it like the period that came after losing like that was like the best time ever because it made them sort through really important stuff. In fact, it worried me, like if they're just winning, I'm like, I don't know if I can teach them the things that I think I need to be teaching them. I don't have their attention because they just keep getting what they want regardless. And so it kind of was perfect. So yeah, I'm gonna use that going forward. Strategically making sure that sometimes they don't get what they want, because I just think it's like the losing is, that's what teaches them everything. And so, yeah,
Mhm.
and the evidence I have of that is, we had like a whole bunch of tears and a whole bunch of sorries and a whole bunch of hanging our heads. And then the people they became after that was like, you know, that's like who you want your
Mhm.
son or daughter to be, like, man, picking yourself
Right.
up and refocusing on what's important and telling the story correctly, that you tried and you didn't get it, and you show back up on Monday and go again. And that's all the good
Yeah.
stuff. So, yeah.
And they got the championship the next year.
Yeah, and then the next year they won again, and maybe they wouldn't have done that without losing. So yeah, it's all part of it.
Yeah, it's the pendulum of it. I mean, and it's so fascinating. It cracks me up sometimes seeing how people react to football teams or basketball teams that are expected to be something incredible, and so many of these fans just forget that you're dealing with. I mean, they're still kids. They're 18 to 22 years old most often, and it's just so incredible how it's like, I mean, so much of their support comes from people who coach them through those moments of adversity. And so it's so great to hear that this is exactly what you do, and clearly there's a reason why NAU is such a perennial powerhouse, because you're on that, and that's fantastic. And yeah.
A big thing I'll say about this, and I think it's really important with young people. The big thing, so we get back for 2019, we lose, get them back to the hotel, pull them aside, and what I said to them there, I think was important, which was to not change the story in what just happened. I see this all the time with young people. They don't get what they want, and then they act like it wasn't important to them, right? So, they lose and say, "Well, I didn't care any. I wasn't trying that hard." I always see it when they go through their breakups, right? Because they'll always tell me, their girlfriend dumped them, but they didn't like her very much anyway. So there's all this protecting that occurs, right? And so the really important thing when you lose is to say, "No, I really wanted that. I actually really wanted that, and it hurts not to get it." And not change the story, and just to sit in that a little bit, right? And so I think we set the tone for that like hours after it happened, and then that came through. And every time I caught even little glimpses of them changing that story or acting like it didn't bother them, I corrected them. And ultimately, I think that came together, like 18 months later when they got to go again.
That's so great. So this is a perfect spot for us to pause. And Christina, I will get to we'll put your question at the top of the list when I restart us. I'm going to pause for just a moment because I have my little midway spiel that I want to make sure everybody gets a chance to hear, because and we've got such a great crowd with us tonight, and I'm sure that a handful of you haven't been with us for some of the first webinars. So just so you know, CCC Cross Country is going to be funded entirely by charitable giving, and so we are asking people to consider donating to help spread the word about how we could really use support, whether from individuals or if there are local businesses, folks around town who are interested in offering their support as a sponsor, anything like that. So I'm going to copy paste the information if you are interested in supporting us. We hope you will. Oh gosh, that did not come out looking good. Okay, so Diana Sanchez is our Chief Development Officer for CCC. She is the person to talk to for all things helping the cross country comets. So if you're interested, and then the link down there, the coconino.edu/cross country comets, that's where our direct donation page is. And then there are other ways to get involved with us. So one of those ways is I have a feeling I'm going to be the one who's running this page, or this email list, because I am the queen of all things spirit around here. I'm the reason why we have pom-poms, even though apparently pom-poms aren't a thing for cross country, they're going to be a thing for us. If you're interested in being one of our community champions to help us spread the word, tell people about meets, if you want to come out and help us, if we need volunteers to set up, do things, click on that link and you'll be able to sign up to join that newsletter. And then I will also make sure that everybody who's registered for the webinar receives an email that includes the link for interested athletes, because we do have a page now where interest forms can be submitted. So interested athletes, make sure you keep an eye out for that. The only other thing that I've done for all of our webinars so far is I have to make sure that I recognize our fabulous community committee crew. That was a lot of alliteration there. So 4 people in particular have been massive helps in terms of getting us started, getting us rolling, helping us figure out what we need to do and how we need to do it to start a cross-country program at CCC. Nat White, our CCC governing board president, who unfortunately is not here this evening unless the governing board meeting ended early and he signed on without me noticing. He's fantastic. He's going to be joining us tomorrow night with Coach Craig Hunt to talk about the future of CCC athletics, and that's going to be fantastic. Make sure you sign on for that. Reggie Eccleston, who is on here. I know I saw your name pop up because you've got one of the questions that I'll make sure I tag on there. Reggie's fantastic. Our guy from NAU, in with the high schools, former NFL football player, all around awesome dude. Doug Allen, I think I saw Doug. Yep, I see Doug's name on there too. Doug, thank you so much for all the work that you do. Flagstaff Sports Hall of Fame, hockey player, former employee of the Flagstaff Unified School District, also awesome person. And Trina Painter, who literally has been as the head coach of Flagstaff High School programs. She has been an excellent source of resources for getting this off the ground. So we thank you so much for your support and for all the work that you guys do for us as volunteers. That's a huge deal, and we appreciate it greatly. Whew. So that was the whole spiel. And now I'm gonna scroll back up in my chat because I want to make sure I've got this. So first of all, we'll do Christina's question, and actually I might tie in Reggie's as well, because her question is, I'd love to hear about how you balance working with men's and women's teams, especially the difference outside expectations for the performances of both those teams. And along with that, we can kind of tie in Reggie's question, which is what recommendations do you have for Coach Hunt in this first year, especially because he'll have a very similar setup of both a men's and a women's side to this.
Okay.
I may have asked too much.
Well, I think I'll start with maybe the question about Coach Hunt. I think you all made a great selection for your head coach, and because you have someone that's very knowledgeable, but also very invested in Flagstaff. And you're not going to be hiring a new coach every couple of years, but I believe you hired someone that's knows it's going to be here for a long time. And when you start a program from zero, that's just the biggest piece, because we know all the things that are possible in Flagstaff. My question about my predecessors, talking about like 40 years or something to get NAU to the place it's in, and so yeah, you got a great place to train and you have all the support, but shoot, starting a program from scratch, it takes a lot. And so I think most of all, you chose someone that I think is in this for the long haul and is a fantastic, going to be a fantastic coach to lead this program. But I would say my advice to Coach Hunt would be to be patient and to not try to do it all at once, and to think long term and set a culture first that then can attract the athletes to come later. But Coach Hunt is a good coach, and I think he's going to be just fine. But I would, along my advice to Coach Hunt, I would just maybe Megan on the words you just shared about the support for CCC, I would just say all this takes a village, and everyone in our running community should be behind Coach Hunt in this program, and know that kind of support, whether it's tangible support or just words of support, or keeping them just kind of on our minds is, I think, goes a long way for a coach, and particularly the spot that Coach Hunt is in. And so it's a brave endeavor to start a program. CCC is going to get on starting lines next to places that have years and years more experience. I'm guessing way bigger budgets and fancier, this and that. And so it's going to take a long time before those those starting lines are equal. And so the way that we make up that ground is just get behind these people and give them a ton of support. So I know that, Coach Hunt and his team are going to be the forefront of my mind, and I'm going to look for any way I can to help them. But it certainly takes a village. That's for sure. I think the second question was about the men.
Yeah, kind of how you balance those expectations, because for one team you may be gunning for a national title, and the other team you might be hoping to make it to the national championships. How do you balance that?
Yeah, so the men's thing we've done here is special, but the work that I would like to be measured against is the needle that we moved with our women's program. When I was coaching at Georgetown, I coached the women's distance team, which is an elite group. And so when I got here, obviously very excited to work with the team trying to win a national championship on the men's side. But we have so many, all the resources are the same, men's or women's team. And we had a women's program that hadn't been at the national championship in 10 years. And the national championship is the top 31 teams in the country. So 350 Division I programs, and the national meet is the top 31. And so, you can imagine for 320 teams, right? It's a big deal to make it to the meet. NAU hadn't been at the meet in the last 10 years. And so we got to work right away on just, trying to recruit the women's program. It was funny, like my first few months working at NAU, call like this top men's recruit in the country, and oh yeah, NAU is one of my top schools. Hang up the phone, call a women's recruit, and she's like, yeah, sorry buddy, no chance, see you later. And that was very humbling, like in the same like 30 minutes. So that took a little while. And so that energy I was talking about of like having to defend, the women's energy is this whole other different thing of just trying to climb. And so that one is really like showing people this vision that's like really far away. And, it's like, you picture like driving out of like Monument Valley, and you see this thing when, and just like for 100 miles, you get closer and closer, and the silhouette gets bigger and bigger. And that's kind of like the vision that we have with our women's program. And the really cool thing is finding recruits that want to sign up for that when there's like no evidence of it whatsoever. And I bet Coach Hunt's going to go through that as well, when he's going to be talking to recruits where he's like talking about a vision, and they're like, all right, where's the evidence of this? And you're like, right, there's no evidence whatsoever. But we have this dream. And so I have a lot of gratitude for the women that said yes to coming to NAU when we hadn't done a whole lot at that time. And that group is, those are like some of the most special people I've had the privilege of working with. And they are tremendous. And our seniors this year that we recruited in 16, brought in fall of 17. And so they just wrapped up spring 21 as their senior year. And the 5 of them that, came on just our words, got to see a team finish 11th at the national championship. And so, those 5 people, that should be a webinar sometime when you ask them like what they did to build a program. And it's pretty special because a lot of it's not very glamorous. A lot of it's, they'll see a camera crew roll into practice to interview the men's team, and no one's asking these guys any questions. So a lot of it's behind the scenes. And there's I think there's a special kind of energy you can work with when you're when it's like it's the place you're trying to get to, only you can see, and it's not maybe this really public thing. But some of the real breakthroughs would be like, some of the stuff that's like not in the headlines, but like, when we go to the Wisconsin Invitational, the biggest, baddest competition you can get to in the regular season, and they all just go out with the front pack. Like we never could have done that 2 years ago. And some of them blow up and some of them hang on, but just these little places you can see it's changing. And that kind of growth is, that kind of growth is totally different. But I think in the nature of that question, it is really different energy. And so you can be, kind of coach in one way and then turn around and like have this totally different message, the next hour, depending on the team that I'm working with. But the men's thing is for sure to be respected, but a lot of those guys have never been on a team that had to climb forward in the way that our women's program has. So I think that work is it can be pretty daunting. And so, yeah, if you're a fan of what NAU is doing, please tune into what our women's team is doing, because that's really special stuff.
That's awesome. Well, and that actually leads into, and I'm asking you another question, and I shouldn't, because I've got, holy cow, so many fabulous questions that are popping up on here, but I do have to ask you, from the perspective of community support, what is the most meaningful meaningful to you and to the team? Is it having? I know I saw the photos from the victory in the most recent cross country national championships, and I could see people standing with their NAU shirts in the background. Is it that attendance at those meets that's the difference maker, or is there another way that the community engages that really sets things off for the team?
I think it's Flagstaff. I think it's Flagstaff. It's like I think of Flagstaff like a container, and it's this huge container that can hold a lot, and it holds all these. It's not just young people. I mean, Flagstaff's a place that is just capable of supporting so much, and people in times of transition. But that to me is like 18, 19, 20-year-olds. It's this great like crossroads of figuring out who you are. It's probably why all these East Coast people end up out here, right? You're trying to find something, and so I think it's that to me is really what the last thing I say to them before they start a race. I don't say, remember last Tuesday you did a really hard workout and you're in great shape. The last thing I say to them is I say, you train in Flagstaff. Because what that sentence means is, remember where we're coming from. No, we're the only team here that comes from Flagstaff, Arizona. And when we remind them that, we're here from Flagstaff, I think it's, the minutes before the gun goes off, it's a lot of doubt. There's a lot of nerves. Your heart is, it's a lot for a young person to manage. And so that those words of like, we're from Flagstaff is the ultimate reassurance. It's the ultimate settling. Like, remember the town we're here from. So I think, there's all these wonderful folks in our community, of course, that follow us and support us and come out to meets and things like that. But ultimately it's, the community to me is the space. It's people that we don't even know.
Yeah. Awesome. So we've got two questions, one from Julia Rose and one from Betsy. Hi, Betsy. And I'm going to tie the two of them together because they do kind of go hand in hand. So Julia Rose's question was, how has the pandemic changed the way you train your athletes physically and mentally? And has it? And then Betsy's question was, what is your approach to keeping athletes healthy?
Yeah, this dang pandemic.
No kidding.
Well, I think the biggest thing, this wonderful thing, is that we removed the calendar, the stress of the competitive calendar, to allow them just to train. And we often our goals are determined by what we're preparing for. So whether you like it or not, the national championship is on this date of the calendar. So instead of really listening to what your body needs, you're instead trying to arrange what's actually happening around you to meet this result on this day. So the pandemic allowed us to take out the calendar, and then you could just listen to what your body needs. Maybe I run less today. Maybe I go slower. So the calendar is the ultimate creator of anxiety. And so we took that out, and then it's magic what happened. And so I think that was just a good lesson of what's driving our thoughts. And most of it is just that the stress that we're not going to be ready for the big tests. The real drawback, though, was it kept them from each other. I mean, after this year, we have freshmen that never went over the seniors' house to play board games, and didn't go over to, the sophomores' house for the cookout, and didn't, all that stuff is like really how the bonds build. And they just missed out on all that. You have people that just really didn't make the human connection that we want them to. And so ultimately that's a thing in our culture. It sets us back. You can only have so many like Zoom team meetings and things like that. If you say the word Zoom to these kids, they like stop listening. So.
Oh
Yeah. So, and that was challenging. How we keep our athletes healthy. We're really fortunate that we've got leadership in our athletic department that embraces a model that's really important for our sport. And I would tell CCC the same thing. Athletic medicine is typically designed around reactive care. Football players collide on the field, and we have to figure out how we get them healthy for the next game 5 days later. In distance running, we can't just react to what happened. We've got to prevent things from happening, right? And so we have to invest in massage therapy, chiropractic care, soft tissue work. Trying to convince administrators of that is a whole other thing, right? So we're really fortunate that the folks at NAU trust our direction with that, and they support us from a financial standpoint to keep our kids healthy. But preventative versus reactive, and that's what you're trying to sort through with medicine. We can't just react. If you just respond once you get a tibia stress fracture, that's a couple months. So we're trying to keep the tibia from breaking in the first place, and that requires a whole different type of thinking around injury.
Definitely. These are things that I did not know until after injuring myself and going to a place where they'd be like, oh yeah, you should have come to us a long time ago.
Right.
So you definitely, there's so much to know about it.
Trying to not convince 18-year-olds of that. Like, good luck.
Oh,
right.
They all think that they're invincible. And now that I'm 34, I'm like, oh, I get it now. My knees pop. Are you drinking enough water? I hope you're hydrated. So Mike, we are down to the last few minutes. And so I'm going to ask you the version of the question that I've been asking everybody along the way. And you've kind of already answered this in a few of your answers, but what opportunities do you see for the future of CCC Cross Country, both for the team and for the community?
Yeah, so I'm gonna try to answer without like getting choked up. It's like everything here. I mean, so athletics. Each day I see people's. I told you, each day I see people's lives totally change because they happen to get involved in sports, and like literally changed. Like, and so one of the problems that my place is like, I get emails every day. I probably got 10 today from people that we can't take everybody. We don't have the room. And the people that like need, sport maybe the most are the people with so much on the line, should they go this other direction. And so, it's not really about like how fast they become. It's like the people they become. And I know that, I'm so sure of that. And so the athletics at the community college level, you're talking about like the biggest bang for your buck of changing people's lives. And you're going to spit out on the other side of that, not just athletes, but you're going to spit out people that have, take great lessons in commitment, build deep relationship with themselves. They know who's inside there. They've had other people count on them. They've had to be relied on. And it's truly life-changing work. So, we should be supporting everyone that's involved in athletics, and whether that's middle school and high school, whether it's Northern Arizona, but, taking this from the beginning down to a program that's going to start from, ground zero, and who are these young people that are going to we're going to bring in initially, and who are they going to be 10 years from now? This to me is like, it's a great test of who we are in Flagstaff, and getting everybody behind this, to me really speaks to, it speaks to our belief in our running community, because, NAU, it took a long time for this program to get where it is. But if you could go back to the 60s and see, connect the dots to that, hey, in 2021, these guys are going to win national championships, and you're going to affect all these hundreds and, 1,000 people, whatever. What kind of support would you give it then? And this is the beginning for CCC. So to me, this couldn't happen in a better place with, better folks around it, but certainly will, like I said, take a village, and it's going to be, it's going to be special to see the young people that this program can help and affect for sure, and who they become, you know, on the other side of it.
Oh yeah. This is why I may be the community education coordinator, but I will be there, and I will be probably one of the loudest people cheering for our team. So I am so incredibly excited to be a part of whatever is to come. And so I couldn't help but notice that apparently the Q&A decided not to notify me that we had questions that had popped up on here. So I'm gonna run these.
Without going over, let me just say one thing, right?
Oh yeah, you go right ahead.
So there's Robin Long is on this webinar, and Robin knows one of our top distance runners, Abdi Hamid Nur. He's from Phoenix, Arizona. So this is exactly what I mean by changing people's lives. Ready? So Abdi Hamid is a U.S. citizen, but was born and raised in Somalia. No one in his family has gone to college. He was academically ineligible to begin at NAU. He went through the CCC to NAU program and found out it was going to take twice as long as he wanted. So it took 2 years to do it. He just set the school record in the 10K. So this is now 2 years into NAU. He set the school record for the 10K. He's sitting at a 3.1 here at NAU. And the difference was, if he didn't go to CCC, his other option was, and he'll tell you this, no problem, was he was going to work at the airport in Phoenix. And those were equal opportunities to him. It was, I'm going to work, I'm going to do the baggage carts at the airport, or I'm going to go to CCC. Coach Smith, what do you think I should do? I say, you know, they're starting me at 20 an hour. That sounds pretty good. I don't know. What do you think? And I look at this guy on the other side of this, and it's like, so anyway, and that's just one person, right? So the what's possible with this to me is, yeah, it's absolutely, I'm sure of it. So
yeah, it's very exciting. And I'll make sure I share, we have a video with Abdi from at the very beginning when we were starting to launch this program last year before the pandemic started. So I'll make sure everybody gets that video, because I know we all are we're quietly in our corner cheering for him, because we know that he's a, I don't know what to call it. I guess a lumber comet. I think that might have to be,
I like it.
New, yeah, lumber comets are going to be a thing now. So before, if you don't mind hanging out for a few extra minutes so I can make sure we get our questions all taken care of. So sorry, Doug, I did not see your question from back before 6:30. His question had been, speaking of Coach Hines, any chance you and your runners will be competing versus the University of Louisville?
Certainly, yeah. We'll be seeing Coach Hines down the road for sure. Robin took the position at Louisville. I made sure to text him, tell him I'm gunning for him. No, yeah, we will see Louisville for sure.
Awesome. And then Ricardo, your first question about whether CCC is looking for an assistant coach in our first season. I think I will save that question for tomorrow for Coach Hunt to answer, because I know he's going to go through all of his plans for the team, and I know it's going to be a big, exciting thing. So make sure you tune in with us tomorrow and ask that question again, and we'll make sure it gets out there to him. And then the last question was, and we can be a little bit more generic with how we say this. The question is, who is the greatest NAU athlete you have coached since the fall of 2016 or thereabouts? Maybe something profound, someone who's really, gotten to you on a personal level. Yeah.
Yeah, Abdi Hamid's probably pretty close to it, right? It's someone who's faced his personal responsibility dead on, and met the challenge. And so he's right up there. And I could give you lots and lots of stories of people that are pretty fantastic, and some of them are our fastest athletes, but usually usually that like ends up being just like very secondary to who they are each day. So
right. All right. I think that's going to do it for us today. Mike, thank you so much for your time. It is so appreciated to have you join us and to help us launch this program and give it the fanfare that it deserves. I know that we're always watching. We're watching our Lumberjacks. We're so excited to see what you continue to do. with this NAU program. And thank you so much. And we'll look forward to bringing you in on all of the exciting things that happen over here at CCC. Hopefully we'll have some opportunities to collaborate together.
Yeah, heck yeah. Consider us complete allies in this, and we can't wait to cheer on the Comets.
Awesome. Well, with that, go Jacks, go Comets. All of you guys have a great night, and we'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow for Coach Hunt's official public introduction. So we'll see you then. Have a good night.